Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast and mine, A Dangerous Podcast. I am your host, Ian Alley Seals, and I am here with my fearless co-host compatriots. We got John in the room. How you doing, buddy?
I was going to introduce myself as Steven Seagal, but yeah, I'm doing okay. Do you know what I just got out of?
What'd you just get out of?
A Tesla.
What?
Yes. My girlfriend may be buying a Tesla from her brother, and I was just driving it, and I have some news to report that a lot of people don't know about Teslas. They're fucking awesome.
Okay, a little background here. At one point, I believe this is with your current paramour. Early on in the relationship, I let John borrow my car. Because, and not just borrow, because like we've talked a number of times about the film that all of us are making, A Stolen Mile, and
when I was a dating man, he let me borrow his car. Yes.
And for a while, John was
kind of like Mystery Date.
Yeah, it was like Mystery Date, but so John was borrowing my 2010 Dodge Challenger RT, which is the real main character of our movie, and he asked, "So Ian, can I have this car on my date?" And I said, absolutely. I want this car to be as beneficial
what a friend, what a
to
brother.
Everyone as possible. And if I recall, John, the answer was she didn't quite care for it.
So,
because really, what this whole Tesla experience is showing is that I should have let you borrow a Prius of some sort.
So there was a couple of as you would say, paramours, and so the one I remember the most, it was we met up at a restaurant or something, and we were hanging out for hours, and we were having a great time, and then we were going to go somewhere, and I was like, well, follow me, and then I got into your car, and she goes, her face lit up, and it was like, is that your car? And I was like, no, that's my friends who were doing a movie, and she's like, oh. That was the one I remember the most. That was really funny.
Yeah, dating men and women of the world, like if you're looking to impress a date with a Dodge Challenger, talk to me. I'll see what
he's your guy, right? Right.
So
yeah. And to go back to your car, there's one purpose of that car, and it's to impress chicks. And I just wasn't able to do it, even with your car. And I don't blame your car at all. I blame me.
That car is a legitimate movie star.
That car is just, is amazing. It's just fucking badass. The Tesla is impressive, but in a very different way. It's not loud. You don't have that feeling of power that you have with yours, it's vibrating, a machine, thing. It's like a cell phone, a really great cell. It's like an iPad, an iPhone 3000 that lets you drive. You charge it, and it has GPS, and it's basically. I was thinking of all the ways that it's like a cell phone.
Is it self-driving? Is she doing the self-driving thing? Have you seen that?
I was doing it. Yeah. So you got to put your hands on the steering wheel every minute or so, but other than that, you're just chilling.
But really, it's because the car doesn't trust you. It doesn't trust that, when it's time for you to take the reins, you can do it.
This is stage one of the robots taking over, where it's training us to rely on them. The robots aren't having any problems. It's us, right? We trust the robotic part completely, but I don't know. The robots don't trust us.
Okay,
and that's probably a good thing.
So John's doing good. He's driving cars that drive himself, and is aiding Skynet in its goal. So Jason, how you doing?
Somebody's got to.
Have you had any more run-ins with pumas?
No, I'm fortunate that I managed to get around without being mauled by any cats.
Excellent.
Probably because that last episode is over.
But I know the internet has not been kind to you this week, and we don't need to go into that. But in general, you doing okay?
No, but I'll survive.
Okay. There we go. Can't get more honest than that. And Electric Ray 2, Electric Boogaloo. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, I love this aura. You're in my office right now, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, and I
Not
love
your first time.
Not my last time.
I do really love the kind of like Mistress of the Dark thing you've got going on in there.
You know, it's all about
From Out of the
lighting.
Shadows. She's becoming more and more gothy the more I know her. And now
I've
she's
always been this way.
she's just straight up sitting in the dark now.
Ray has Bauhaus playing on her iPhone in the background all the time.
Mm.
It's Bauhaus and Vampire Diaries.
No. I have an eclectic musical taste. I like all sorts of music.
You like Susie and the Banshees?
Yeah. And you know what's funny, Ian, is like that music just tends to follow her. Like one time I was in Kmart with Ray, and in Kmart, the Bajas came on.
What?
Like the moment she walked in. Like, yeah. Did you ever hear Bela Lugosi's Dead in Kmart? I never did until I was there with Ray.
Hang out with Ray right there.
Yeah.
Like, has it been a while since you've listened to VNV Nation? Walk into Walgreens with Ray.
Right.
If that's
Johnny
the lamest
Cash. I like
vampire
Johnny
power you could ever possibly have.
Before we go any further,
I
we
said-
really should go ahead.
I literally sent you guys a hip hop video today.
That doesn't redeem you.
I'm just saying, I like all sorts
So
of
we got a
music.
hip hop video from a goth chick. What's
Me
it
and
like?
John are big fans of Electric Six. We haven't brought that up on the podcast yet. We're big fans.
Okay.
John, you want to tell us more about some of the literature you bought from Dick Valentine?
I don't know if anyone knows who Electric Six are, except me and you, and maybe a handful of other people. But I made the lead singer draw me a bunny one time. He was his name is Dick Valentine, and he was getting into the business of selling an ebook that he described as a porn thriller. And I sent him a message and I said, if you draw me a bunny, I'll buy it. And he wrote me back and he's like, for real? You'll do it? I'm like, yeah, don't make this weird. I just want the bunny and I'll buy your thing. So he did. And I posted it and I was like, holy fucking shit. Dick Valentine drew me a bunny. And then he replied to that on my Facebook page. He wrote, I will always draw you a bunny. But fast forward like a year later or something, I was going through my divorce, and anybody who's been through it know you have to disclose all your financial stuff, including PayPal. And so I was sitting in a lawyer's office where we're going through all of this, or no, it was a courthouse, and we're going through all the financial shit. And right there on paper, under the PayPal thing, John Carrier spent $15 on porn thriller. And I had to explain, no, it's not what you think. It's Dick Valentine. Oh, never mind. I'm just going to make it worse.
The highlight of the proceedings.
Right. He drew me a bunny. Oh, never mind. Just, all right, whatever.
And that's legal record right now. That's legal record.
Like, right. If I become famous for killing the president or something in, 1,000 years' time, they're going to tie that porn thriller to, he was like, he was a pervert. He used to buy porn thrillers from the internet.
He's continually watched erotic thrillers.
Public record, right.
Like Dangerous Touch and Amanda in the
Right.
And
He literally was in a podcast called A Dangerous Podcast.
He
We
chose
should
the
have
Neil
seen it
Breen
coming.
movie, which is a noted pervert.
That's the calling card right there.
But
Now,
guys,
what I like
before we get it, wait, we got to stop.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to know where Jules is.
Okay. Yeah.
Explain where Jules is.
All right, everybody. I know that we're recording this on our non-official time, which for those of you who are listening at home on the podcast, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. We normally record on Tuesday, but due to some issues, we couldn't do that. So we're recording right now, and I'm a little worried. I'm more than a little worried because one of our fearless co-host compatriots, Jules, cannot make it. And I don't know about you guys. I kind of rely on Jules to bring most of the intelligent discussion to this podcast. We skirt by everybody. Let's be honest here.
I
we
think
skirt by on looks and charm. It's Jules who brings actual thought.
no. I think Jason can. I think we can get by with Jason.
Okay.
Sure as hell, me and Ray aren't gonna.
I'm
I
not.
just worry that Jules ended up in either a cat-related or sword-related incident because that seems to be the.
Yeah, we're gonna find out right here. He was just in a broadsword competition with a saber-toothed tiger, which might be the plot of our next week's movie. I'm not sure. So
we've done worse. We've done worse this week, right now.
Yeah, we have in fact done worse, and that's going to segue into our film for today.
Wait, before we do that, do we want to see a puppy?
Yes.
All right, let's see a puppy.
It's puppy time, everybody. It's puppy time. Everybody right now who's listening at home, John is grabbing a snow white puppy.
Or a black puppy.
About to inflict us with adorableness.
Oh,
there's a doggo.
You know what this puppy's name is?
What's his name?
This is Neil Breen.
Oh,
no.
Hi, Neil Breen.
Neil Breen the puppy.
Oh.
Do not. Oh, no. Hold on. Can you make the dog do the hand thing again? And I'm gonna narrate the dog right now.
Okay. Right.
Ready? Go. Leah. Do you know who I am? Do you remember who I am? I'm Neil Breen the puppy. Okay. Let's try it again. Ready? Get that? And John is like bobbing.
How did you commit suicide?
We're gonna do this one last time.
I can't believe it.
This is the whole podcast right now. Is me narrating the puppy. We're changing the whole thing. Ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I can't believe it. Why did you commit suicide? I can't believe it. Why?
You've given me a great idea. I think I want to act out that whole movie with puppies.
You want to
like
do the whole movie with puppies?
Have a puppy there with like ketchup on his.
And then there's gonna be another puppy getting out of the pool, all sexy, and then you have a dog puppy saying,
"That would be a hit movie.
Not to do this anymore."
That would be a hit movie.
Listening in, you can look back to one of our earlier podcasts about the film Not Dangerous Touch. Sorry, that's what our podcast is based on. This was Fateful Findings by Neil Breen. I would not suggest actually that you watch the movie, nor would I
would. Don't listen to him. Watch that.
Nor would I actually suggest you listen to the podcast because it is our most unorganized podcast. But still, we were just making a joke.
Very fitting.
Yeah, we're making a joke about Neil Breen's Fateful Findings. And we're about now, if Neil Breen's Fateful Findings was the most low-budget film we've ever talked about here, we're about to talk about the highest budget film that we've ever had on here.
And that's sad.
That is. What brings us together today is 1994's On Deadly Ground with Mr. Steven Seagal. And I'm going to throw an indicator number up here. I'm going to throw a little number that's going to guide us right now. How much do we think, or do we know how much Neil Breen spent on Fateful Findings? What was the budget on that movie?
I would guess 10,000, 15,000.
10,000, 15,000. John, do you know this? This is your favorite director.
I can find out. I'll find out. I'll look it up right now.
Okay, looking it up. I would hazard to guess 25,000. That's what
I'll tell you what, though. There's one thing I know about, and I saw this in an interview with Neil Breen. All of his movies have been profitable.
I'm sure. I will give it. Look,
because he had to pay enough people, I wouldn't be surprised if the budget was like 100,000.
No, but who's he paying? I mean, he may be paying the actors.
He's got actors.
Crew. We can't see the crew.
Oh, but the crew is so minimal for it. I mean, he had to get that Ferrari from somewhere. There's a Ferrari.
Albert's cocaine ain't cheap.
Yeah. John, how close are we here?
I don't know.
All right. whatever it is, we're going to jump back in. Does anybody know?
Okay, hang on. This is going to blow you away.
Tell me how much.
I don't know if this is right. I have to look into this.
Okay, how much did Fateful Findings cost?
I'm showing. Wait, this can't be right. No. This isn't right. It's showing me 37 million.
Okay, of course not. Of course not.
I'm thinking that's slightly off.
$37, $370, maybe.
Right, I think I got it.
Okay.
Breen has only been able to. No, that's how much it's cost to make.
See, this is the best part of this podcast because we don't actually know what we're doing, nor do we have a plan of any kind.
No plan.
At least 20 minutes of it is just John looking stuff up on the internet while we wait.
I do know how much this movie is it cost to make this movie because I researched this film.
Ray?
It's around
on Deadly Ground. How much did it cost?
Around $50 million.
$50 million on Deadly Ground cost. Like when we looked at Super Mario Brothers the movie and we looked at Superman 2 The Quest for Peace, we would joke about, how much did this movie cost? This movie cost $50 million. And when you have $50 million, there are a few things that you can buy a lot of. You can buy a lot of explosions. You can buy an entire oil rig that you are then going to explode. You can also buy Academy Award winner Michael Kane.
Oh my God, I love Michael Kane in this film.
Can I just stop? I want to get into this, but I just found out a really funny fact about Neil Breen, his budget. I wasn't able to find out exactly what the budget is, but for Fateful Findings, he did set up a GoFundMe for $50,000. Okay, which he was only able to raise $1,400.
No, but honestly, if
which explains a lot.
I think Jason is right, like between $15,000 and $20,000. But if you told me Fateful Findings cost $50,000, yes, if he's paying everybody and actually doing craft services and paying for permits to some of the locations he's going to, which I seriously doubt, you can rack up a few dollars that way. But that's where we go from Fateful Findings. We have a legitimate $50 million price tag film here. And I'm going to hazard it's just as bad as Fateful Findings.
No, this was worse. I mean, we all have our opinions. This was way worse.
John, you and me are of a like mind here.
You know. Okay, and that's good because we're typically aren't. You in a past show, I remember you made a statement. You were talking about 2001, A Space Oddity, and you were talking about how you love that. You love that type of movie. Odyssey. Sorry, yes. I don't know the name because I hated it so much. I couldn't wait to get out of it. That was the movie where I just felt like I was alone in the world because everyone in that movie theater was soaking it up. I saw it at Trinity.
Yeah,
and
70 millimeter. You saw it on 70 millimeter at Trinity.
Yeah, it could have been a billion millimeter. It wouldn't have made any difference to how much I didn't. It was, but you summed it. You were just like slow moving, boring science fiction I love. And that's my definition of hell. Like when I'm watching, I told somebody this too, like it's like when I'm watching something, whether it's a movie or a TV show, and I see outer space, I'm immediately turned off. Okay. Me and you are very different that way.
You're going to watch a lot of science fiction here.
I'm right. And you're going to watch a lot of Neil Breen. So
I really hope not, man. He's only got 5 films.
Just going to suggest that maybe we just turn this around and just start talking about The Expanse because that's all I really want to talk about.
Oh, but The Expanse is good, Ray.
Yeah, that's what I know. But why don't we just make this podcast about The Expanse? I mean, sorry.
Yeah, it's suggestion noted. That will be for our side podcast, a very good television show. But we're not here for that today.
Very safe podcast.
We are here for On Deadly Ground, which I'm going to start off by saying 2 things. One is it was very hard for me to find this film and actually watch it. Because, I'm lazy. I know you guys go to all these efforts to find free versions of it. I often just pay the $3 on Amazon. And while I enjoyed doing that and giving my money to Lou Diamond Phillips with Dangerous Touch, I really didn't like giving money to anything going to Steven Seagal for this movie, but I did it.
He's a horrible man.
So wasn't this your suggestion? I mean,
It was my suggestion. It was
Okay.
Yesterday I found on Deadly Ground on my Cox Communications on demand, or like a rental for $3 or $4 or whatever, and I watched it and I wanted to review some parts of it. So I went back into my cable thing and I said into the voice command of the microphone on Dangerous Ground. It didn't come up. I said it like 4 times. It didn't come up. I looked under my recent purchases and it was gone. Like a day later, it was just finished.
Yeah, but even
And
you
got
said
fucked.
you just said on dangerous ground, and this is what gets me into trouble because I thought that was the title of the movie. And even in last week's podcast, Jules corrected me and said, "No,
John corrected you.
it's John, you corrected me."
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you said it's on deadly ground.
On Deadly Ground.
And every time I went on Amazon,
I said we cannot watch on Dangerous Ground.
because
why? Because it's called On Deadly
on
Ground.
deadly ground, and I still typed the wrong name in Amazon, and it took me 45 minutes to get the movie. anyway, so that's one fact.
That's called you want to forget this movie before you even watched it.
Yeah. And so the second thing, I'm just setting up my own experience. And this was a movie I chose. And I didn't choose it for any fondness purposes at all. Like, let's go over my previous choices. I chose the first one, Dangerous Touch, because I remembered this wacky thing of this experience of me and Jules in like the early 90s, watching it late at night on Cinemax and laughing our asses off. And then we've been joking about the movie ever since. It's a terrible movie, but we had this story. All right. And then you have Rollerball. I remember talking to my dad about it and him telling me how it's this great concept, but it sucks. And that's debatable. But I had that. I had no connection to On Deadly Ground other than I remembered that it was a terrible Steven Seagal movie. That's all I had. And I did see it. I remember seeing it when I was a kid. And I'm not a Steven Seagal fan. I mean, I know that there are people who are. He was a big movie star.
I don't think anyone's surprised by that.
Yeah, he's on his way. He was on his way to becoming a big movie star. And I've never understood why. Not even when I was a kid. And I do like action movies. But I think when I was watching this movie today, it reminded me that like my tastes in action stars don't lend themselves to traditional action stars. Like, I've never been a fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme or Seagal or Stallone. I'm a Kurt Russell guy. I'm a Kurt Russell and Big Trouble in Little China guy. Give me somebody with a sense of humor, you know.
Escape from New York, right?
Yeah, and Escape from New York, exactly.
What do you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I like Schwarzenegger.
Okay, me too.
So
we're on the same level of action hero.
I mean, as you know, Ray, Terminator is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I like Kurt Russell. I like Arnold a lot.
Now, we have a comment here. Who's that cute girl? Now, if you're talking about my co-host, that would be Electric Ray, and show her some respect, please. She has the beauty, but she also has the brains. She's the whole package. Gentlemen at home, she's the whole package.
Right.
Now, if you're talking about,
she's a classy girl. If you want to get to know Ray, you go on Match.com. This isn't the place to.
Unlike Neil Breen, I actually am writing a novel.
Well, you could just be saying you are. But you're really hacking into it.
and ladies,
Top secret government files. I have the evidence.
now, ladies, if you're on the market for the real deal, for a man who has multitudes, who actually has the ability to hack in to all the government secrets, just look to our man Jason here. He's a man of multitudes. So
he'll hack into your heart is what he'll do.
With a sword.
Yeah, and right.
It's true. So I don't know where, but if you were asking who the cute girl in the movie was, that is Joan Chen, and she's cute. Yeah. I mean, that's the best thing you can kind of say.
She's got a restraining order against Steven Seagal right now, I assume.
Who has it? Ray has both Ray and Jason have restraining orders against Steven Seagal.
Can we stop for a second and talk about Steven Seagal stories, because there's so many Steven Seagal stories.
Please do.
I have a really quick one, and I have a million more, but this is my favorite. And somebody was telling this story who was on the set with him somewhere, and Steven Seagal walks out of a trailer, and he's just has this like thing about him, and he, somebody walked up to him and he goes, Steven Seagal says, "I just read the best script I've ever read in my entire life." And he goes, "Oh yeah, who wrote it?" And he goes, "I did."
What I'm going to say is, in fact, there are Steven Seagal, Neil Breen parallels. And I'm going to go into that.
And Lou Diamond Phillips.
And yes, and Lou Diamond Phillips. The only difference here of all of those three, and you'll note, John, for you, I've given up the Lou Diamond Phillips thing. I've given it up. It's going to crash us. It was the only thing keeping us afloat, but I'm not going to have us do Lou Diamond Phillips facts. I have not referenced our patron saint. But here's one thing. Of the three you said there, Lou Diamond Phillips is actually good. He is a well-recognized good actor. I don't know about director and producer, but he's a good actor. But rather than go down the Lou Diamond Phillips hole right there, do we want to start recapping this movie?
Well, I just want to say one thing about Joan Chen, actually. She's definitely Stallone's type. I mean,
Seagal.
Whatever. Sorry. Seagal. His four wives, like two of them have like an exotic look to them. Like his most recent wife is, Mongolian. His first wife was Japanese. Like she definitely kind of like resembles two of his wives a bit.
Look who's been doing their research, huh?
Damn,
Ray.
Yep.
You're diving deep. Who knew you dove that deep?
Yeah, man, I could dive deep sometimes,
A lot of guys out there would be glad to know that.
If I could just get his name.
Right now, I'm trying to make a Hinge joke in my head right now, and it's just not happening. Sorry, everybody.
There's more to me than my dating life, okay?
That's what I said. That's what I said. Ray is the whole package, and if you go on Hinge right now, you can find out.
Like, do you know that I have a Instagram, like a poetry Instagram account? Do you guys
know that? Wow,
see,
that's deep.
Everybody.
I was telling you, that's deep. That's deep.
Okay. All right, we could talk about Ray's poetry and dating prospects.
Ray is poetry
all night, but we're going to move on.
No separation between the two. Right.
Now, by the way, we have a comment that said the ideal Steven
Ray
Seagal
could direct, produce, and
for
write
Steven
the script
Seagal
for
by Steven
your heart.
Seagal.
That's what you do.
Okay. Again, the comment says
I hate you guys.
by Steven Seagal. Also, I'm learning entirely too much about Steven Seagal's personal life.
Oh, just you wait. We're
getting there right now. So everybody,
do you know he was married to Kelly LeBrock, like from like Science?
Yeah, she was.
Like I fucking believe it.
Okay. Ray, you're stealing my thunder there. I have a Kelly LeBrock story about Steven Seagal as well, but we're gonna get there. So
mind blown. This guy is good with the ladies. Like I can't even believe it. Steven Seagal. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Now, here we are on deadly ground. We open the film with the majestic screech of a bald eagle and shots of the Alaskan wilderness in all of its majesty and beauty. And then we cut to an oil rig that is exploding. I mean, there's flames. And it is impressive, can we all admit right now, watching all of the low-budget films that we've been watching, looking at an oil rig.
Rig on fire was cool.
Yeah, an oil rig on fire. It's impressive.
Before we get into it,
yeah.
For those who haven't seen the movie, can I just give the brief description of it?
Absolutely.
Because I mean, just the description itself is pretty funny. All right. Forrest Taft is an environmental agent who works for the Aegis Oil Company in Alaska. Aegis Oil's corrupt CEO, Michael Jennings, is the kind of person who doesn't care whether or not oil spills into the ocean or onto the land, just as long as it's making money for him. That's it.
Yeah.
That made me laugh when I read that. I just thought, Jesus Christ, I could just see like Steven Seagal there for hours writing this shit.
Did he write this film?
I'd be surprised
if
he didn't write a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm going to recap this. Somebody else looked this up. So now this oil rig is exploding, and there's the grizzled foreman is like, I knew this would happen. And then a helicopter lands, and out of the helicopter comes the amoral or immoral executives of the oil company. Lead oil executive Michael Kane, his completely smarmy fixer John C. McGinley, and Mr. Steven Seagal, ponytail in check, cigarette in his mouth. And Seagal kind of walks out, and he walks out to the grizzled foreman, whose name is Hugh. And they're tight, like they've known each other for a while. And so Hugh says to Steven Seagal, whose name is Forrest, by the way, he says to Forrest, "Oh, what's the technical thing? They didn't have the inhibitors or the regulators or something like that. I'm going to call them the inhibitors. I don't remember. It's like, we never got our inhibitors, and that's why this place is exploding. And I know it's on
They were like breakers or something, like safety breakers.
Something like that. It wasn't breakers, but I'm just going to call them inhibitors. And so then Hugh is like, I know this is an inside job. Michael Caine is doing this on purpose. And Steven Seagal goes, why would Michael Caine blow up his own rig on purpose? That doesn't make any sense. And then Hugh is like, well, it doesn't need to make any sense. And I don't know what happened to you, Forrest. You used to be a good man. Now you're just a whore. And then he runs away. And back over at the helicopter, Michael Caine says to John C. McGinley, well, it looks like Hugh is out of his depth, and this is all his fault. And John C. McGinley's like, yeah, I guess it is. I mean, these fucking guys, they have no connection to real workers, to real men. It's all dollars and cents for them. So at that point, I'm trying to describe what happens here. Steven Seagal walks over to the rig. He's smoking his cigarette. He gets a look from Michael Caine. Michael Caine gives him a nod. And then Steven Seagal throws his cigarette, something in the rig, and the rig effing explodes. By the way, E.B. Savage just said, this movie would have been dramatically improved if it had been narrated by a 4-year-old. It would have also made more sense. This is absolutely true. So the whole rig explodes. And
it was written by a 4-year-old.
Yeah. or someone with the mental aptitude of a 4-year-old, meaning Steven Seagal. So then they get back in the helicopter and they're starting to fly away. And Steven Seagal says, well, you know, Hugh over there was saying that there weren't any inhibitors. And then Michael Caine's like, I don't know what Hugh's talking about. He's out of touch. And then Steven Seagal says, well, I guess all the evidence just blew up anyway. And Michael Caine says, I guess it did. Wink, wink. All right.
And like, can I just do a shout out to Michael Caine's bolo ties in this film?
Oh, he is rocking that bolo tie like it's going out of style.
I just love him as a villain in this film. Like, he really does it for me in this film.
Yeah, well, he's actually an actor. Steven Seagal just throws some punches and then calls it a movie.
Well,
did anyone find that casting of Michael Caine to be kind of fucking odd, to say the least? I mean,
no, because at $50 million budget, they could pay him.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when
I know they can pay him, but should they? I mean, they could have paid Laurence Olivier, but wouldn't he be out of fucking place in this movie? I mean, it was just like, why is Michael Caine here? Yeah, I know you need an oil tycoon, but Michael
I think this movie was probably below his caliber. Yeah.
Well, and that's the point. No,
it's below fucking Pee Wee Herman's caliber.
Well, I think he's trying to not be typecast, because isn't he usually like a good character in films?
He plays
going a little bit out of his range, I think, right?
Okay.
Or like what you would.
Gunarso has come to our aid that this film was written by Ed Horowitz and Robin U. Rusin. The most famous writing credit to Ed is that he is also the writer of La Femme Nikita, the U.S.
Wow.
They also worked together on a movie called Shark Bottle, which, according to IMDb, is an unhappy program to kill postal worker must stop his current employers or die trying. Okay. For a second, I thought we were going to hear the plot to our next film, Blood Tide Legal Waters, which is about a great white shark that has its brain replaced with that of a serial killer.
Courtroom drama.
I'm glad that we're not stepping on somebody else's toes. But this is a point that I want to make here, is for us in the future, we understand that this movie is schlock. This is essentially direct-to-video fare. But at the time, this is Steven Seagal. He's becoming one of the biggest action stars in the world, and this is a $50 million budget film. Like, this is to the level, or at least on paper, should be to the caliber of someone, maybe not Michael Caine, but certainly John C. McGinley's here for a paycheck, and they could pay Michael Caine. And if they could pay Michael Caine, like, think of who else this could have been. It could have been like Martin Sheen. I actually, in your minds, change the oil tycoon to Martin Sheen for a second, and I think it works pretty well. We've all done it? Okay.
I can see it. I can see it.
All right. But now we're going to move on. And I am going to cut through a lot of the BS because there's so much BS to this film. And we're just going to get to the meat. So at this point, you then...
and I just want to, before you do that, I just want to say, I think this is Steven Seagal's last big budget, big budget film.
Everything he does goes down from this point.
Right. I'm looking at the list right now, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah. And so... at this point, you cut to a number of scenes of Michael Caine at press conferences where he's saying, yes, well, this explosion, it was human error. It was our foreman. It was bad. And also Native American terrorists have been doing it. We hate Native Americans. And, not Native Americans. I'm going to use this term as little as possible in this podcast, but just know it's the term they use for Native people throughout the entire film, which is Eskimos.
They're actually Inuits, right? I mean,
yeah, but they're never going to say that in this movie.
It's not in a 90s movie, right?
And Eskimo that, like...
yeah, which we know now it means like flesh eater, which, is a derogatory term. But
yeah, I mean, we watched Roar last week, and this is 5 times more racist than Roar.
Oh, man.
Him playing a Native American is just offensive. And I'm not Native American.
Why did multiple Native characters have to be some kind of mystic psychic?
Because they all are, Jason.
That's what they are. They're magical, right? And and him with his slicked back hair.
And that he's not Native American, though. He's a white guy, right? He's not Native
Serbian
American.
and Russian.
He's supposed to be a Serbian Russian. No, I mean his character.
No, he is Serbian and Russian in real life.
No, but in the movie, he's supposed to be a Native American.
Oh, I don't think you ever explicitly say that.
I didn't think so. I thought he was white savior. That's what I thought.
And I just want to let you know, part of the reason you didn't do any big budget films after this is that they only brought in $38 million, so they lost money.
Don't you remember the bar fight when he's kicking ass? But he's like, wait, I know he was, but he says natives 9, oil riggers 1. Or something.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. I'll get to that line. There's a very specific line he says. So we're gonna get this. So Michael Caine lays out that that the company takes no credit or responsibility for the explosion, and they are creating their new biggest oil rig ever, Aegis 1. And he gets into a fight with a representative from the Inuit tribes, who is, just accusing him of all terrible things that he does. And then we find out that the reason they need to get this oil rig, Aegis 1, online within like the next 2 weeks is that if they don't, the oil rights from that area will revert to the Inuit people. And he'll be damned if he lets that happen. And so now we cut over to Forrest, he's not happy with his life. Obviously Forrest I'm going to stop using his character name. Steven Seagal has been making some terrible life decisions. And he drinks from a hip flask all the time. And he's at the bar with Hugh. And Hugh goes to him and he says, I was out of line there, Steven Seagal. And then Steven Seagal says, I know you were. It wasn't for calling me a whore. It was for saying I used to be a good man. He's a tortured soul, everybody. Steven Seagal is a tortured soul. And then you get Mike Starr, actor Mike Starr. He's a good actor. He's a good character actor. He's a big guy. He's a loudmouth, and he's in the bar. He's an oil worker, and he's being obnoxious. and there's a Native American man there. There's an Inuit man there who's essentially asking for a drink. And then he just gets all racist on the guy and beats him up and throws him into a jukebox. And Steven Seagal, he kind of lets it go. And then Mike, the character's name is Big Mike in the credits. Big Mike looks over to Steven Seagal and says, "What's up, Cupcake? Did I hurt your boyfriend?" Oh, now we're getting homophobic here too. And Steven Seagal lets it slide. He lets it slide. And then later on, Big Mike ruffles up the Native American man again. And now Steven Seagal's had too much. Steven Seagal stands up and Big Mike is like, "What, you want a piece of me? I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna kill you." And then all the oil workers jump Steven Seagal, and Steven Seagal dispatches them in bone-shattering efficiency. Yes. Just bones shattering everywhere. And then he says, the actual line is here, John. He says, "Well, oil worker 0,
right.
Cupcake 7.
Well, you forgot that he challenged him to a game of hand slap.
I thought that's after.
Yeah, but here's another Steven Seagal fact. He fucks up actors on his sets, like really? Just extras and just those guys who are jumping. He fucks them up. Yeah, he's known to just like really hurt them.
Now I've looked this up because I'm not sure. Like there's often when you talk about Chuck Norris, let's take the jokes about Chuck Norris aside. Chuck Norris has made a billion terrible movies, but no one can ever argue that he's a good martial artist. Like everybody knows he's a good martial artist. Bruce effing Lee said he was a good martial artist.
I don't know. I don't
understand this. Was Steven Seagal actually a good martial artist?
I think that his first wife is Japanese. He went to Aikido school there. Literally, if you look at a picture of him and his first wife, they're in traditional like Japanese garb. His first wife is a martial arts instructor, so he does have a background in martial arts.
Well,
or she's more badass than he is.
Yeah, but
certainly,
like being adjacent to a martial artist doesn't make you good. Like I know both of you, and you're ninja masters, and I can't beat anybody in a fight.
I'm not a master.
So let me say something, because I've been into the whole Steven Seagal lore. He's a really shitty guy. I mean, I don't know if anybody remembers. He had a television show where he was, I guess he was an honorary sheriff.
Yeah, he was like a cop or a bounty hunter or something.
And they made a reality show about him actually training real cops. And it was crazy. What the fuck is he doing training fucking cops? But people started looking into him, and there was actually allegations of like sex trafficking. I mean, very serious charges. We can go forever about what a piece of shit he is.
Sure, yeah.
But as far as him and his martial arts skills, there's been a lot. First of all, everything about Bruce Lee is bullshit. It probably came from him. But no, Bruce Lee never said he never fought Bruce. There was a story about he fought Bruce Lee and won. Never happened. He had nothing to do with fucking Bruce Lee. He supposedly is actually a pretty good legit. And somebody who was on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is big with the whole UFC thing. He's got a lot of fighters on, and he knows a lot of people. And they were talking about because he's not as good as he says he is. Like there's a lot of like Chuck Norris during his day would just fucking destroy, would tie him up in a knot. But he is legit in his own style of whatever he does. He's got very fast hands and he does that fucking thing. I mean, could he win in a fight against everybody he says he can? No, he cannot.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think any of us would be surprised to find out
Albert knows.
that Steven Seagal. Yeah, I don't think any of us would be surprised to find out that Steven Seagal wasn't actually good at martial arts. I would be vaguely surprised to find out he is, but also I'm not going to question that. If somebody says he actually knows a little bit about martial arts, I'm not going to deny it. But in this scene, he's practicing his martial art by breaking a bunch of oil workers. And then he goes to Big Mike and he says, "Hey, Big Mike, why don't we play the hand slap game? which is nothing I've ever heard in a bar ever. In any bar, I've never heard someone say, let's play the hand slap game. He's like, if you can slap my hand, then I'll leave or something. But if I slap your hand, then I get to take a free shot at you. And so, like, of course, he goes, he's got some quickness, and he slaps Big Mike's hand, then he punches him. And then he does it again. And then he punches him again, and Big Mike falls to the ground. And that's when Steven Seagal towers over him, looks down and pontificates and says, what does it take? What does it take to change a man? What does it take to change who a man is? And Mike Starr is doing his effing best. He's doing his best. He starts tearing up and he goes, time. I need time to change. And then Steven Seagal goes, so do I. So do I.
And I just wanted to puke. And let me tell you another quick story about him. He was this was on Howard Stern. Somebody was on a set with him, and like he met like the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama gave some honor to him. Or I forgot what the fuck it is, but what the fuck? And somebody's interviewing him, and he's like, "Yes, the Dalai Lama in his wisdom saw that I should be honored with and how we work for peace and we meditate." And then assistant came up to him and he goes, Steven, your ex-wife called, said your kids are going to be a little late. He goes, you tell that fucking bitch, if my kids are not here in 30 minutes, I'm going to fucking kill you,
I laugh, but that's horrifying.
I laugh, but I cry in the inside. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
he is... there's a lot of things debatable about him, about whether he's a good martial artist. And one thing everybody agrees on, he's the biggest piece of shit on the planet.
We have another comment that says, when I was 5 years old, my dad told me he was Steven Seagal. So for one day, I hit him with a stick, waiting for him to use martial arts, and he just ended up with a nosebleed. That's a great story.
Well, he had it coming. I mean, if your father, really, if I told my kids I was Steven Seagal and they hit me with a fucking broom and broke, I asked for it, right?
I mean, and John kind of looks like Steven Seagal.
And I kind of look like, right. I don't talk that shit, right.
Yeah. Now we're going to continue here.
Gotta slick my hair back.
Because there's not a lot actually to cover here.
I know you didn't do that for this podcast.
I should have did that before I started.
So next.
What does it take to change it?
What does it take? What does it take?
Literally what John says every day in the mirror.
God, what does it take for us to continue this podcast? What does it take? So at that point, Steven Seagal has a talk with
Takes
Hugh.
less alcohol, John.
John, I'm trying to.
Sorry, I know. Go ahead.
I want to hear John's inner monologue.
No, go ahead.
I don't.
Nobody does. That's another podcast.
So Hugh and Steven Seagal have a conference. Hugh says, why don't you go on to my computer and use my ID and find out all the secrets of, or just use my ID, go on your computer, find out all the secrets about Aegis Oil. And so Steven Seagal does, and he finds out that they are not going to be putting the inhibitors into the new Aegis 1 oil rig because it'll take too long and it needs to go online so that they can keep the oil rights away from the Inuits. All right. Now, back in central headquarters, John C. McGinley gets a word from IT, I guess, saying that Hugh has been looking at their secret files. And they're like, well, Hugh needs to be taken care of right now. And also, we think Steven Seagal has been causing a little too many problems here. Can we take care of this? Yes, we can take care of this. So John C. McGinley heads on over to Hugh's cabin, and he breaks in with his goons, and they're like, where are the files, Hugh? Where are the files? He's like, I don't know about any files, you asshole, and everything like that. And then they torture him in a pretty brutal way. And they like beat him up. They break his fingers with an Inuit club. They tie him down, and then they take, I think it was a pipe cutter, and off screen start cutting his limbs off. It's horrible. It's just horrible. When I was watching the scene, I was actually kind of doing dishes while I was watching this, and I was playing it on speakers, and it was so gruesome I had to turn it off. Like, I didn't turn off the movie, but like I turned off the sound for a minute because it's like, my God,
They don't really actually show anything. They just show.
they don't show it. It's like, and so anyway, and then they have to take care of Steven Seagal. So Michael Caine says to Steven Seagal, we've got an issue with this other oil rig, and you're the only one with the expertise to take a look. Will you do it for me? Will you do it for me, Steven Seagal? And Steven Seagal's like, fine. And so they helicopter out to this other oil rig. And Steven Seagal says, if you see anything, if you smelled something, take off. And they're like, don't worry, Seagal, we will. And so Seagal goes in. It's dramatic. And he's in like a protective suit. It looks like a hazmat suit, kind of, or a suit that the bomb squad would wear. And so he's going in there. And he's looking around, and then he sees blood, and then he sees the dismembered body of Hugh, and then he sees dynamite everywhere. He's like, oh shit. And so he runs out, and then Michael Caine gives John C. McGinley a detonator and says, it's your turn. And McGinley's like, oh, that's fine, I would have done this anyway. And he takes it and he hits it, and there's an explosion that is so large that, I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm going to tell a story right now. I'm going to segue right now. For I think it's Live and Let Die, or maybe it's The Spy Who Loved Me, James Bond film. They had been getting a lot of equipment from the U.S. government. You know, that often happens with action movies. If you make the U.S. government look semi-decent, they'll let you use equipment. And they said, we got this rocket fuel from NASA, and we don't know what to do with it. Do you want it? And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. And they have to blow up a yacht. And so they put all the rocket fuel under the yacht. And then they're like, all right, roll camera, and they hit detonate, and there's a flash of light that blinds everybody. And when the light fades, the boat is gone, just vaporized. And they're like, oh my God. Then someone looks up in the sky and sees a dot, and the dot keeps getting bigger. And then they realized that they didn't destroy the boat at all. They just launched it nearly into orbit.
Oh.
And then the boat fell and crashed. And I thought about that while I was watching this scene. Like, how much money did they spend to blow up this other oil rig? They blow up 3 entire oil rigs in this film.
Because they had to teach the world the lesson that the way that you fix an oil rig that's on fire is to rig it with explosives and blow it up.
And
I know, doesn't that make it leak more oil? Like,
for a company that's job it is to pump and refine oil, all they do is blow up their own oil rigs.
Yeah.
Like he like a professional firefighter that like
I don't know. All I know is of the 3 oil rigs that are exploded in this film, only one of them is exploded by Seagal. The other 2 are blown up by their owners. So anyway, you have this explosion that's Hiroshima in level, and it just kind of throws Steven Seagal, much like that boat in A Spy Who Loves Me. And so then they take off. The body of Steven Seagal, nearly dead, is discovered by a group of Inuit hunters who were chasing a polar bear. And they take him and they bring him back to their village. And Steven Seagal awakens being nursed to health by an Inuit tribe. And at his bedside is the chief of the Inuit tribe and a very gorgeous Joan Chen, who is interpreting. And this is when I realized I have seen this film. And this has been a trend in this podcast where there's a movie I completely forgot that I've seen, but I realized I can quote the dialogue. And I've never hated that more than with this film. Because we then have the most obnoxious dialogue I've nearly ever heard. And this is how the scene goes. The chief thinks that Steven Seagal is a bear, a shape-shifted bear. That's what he thinks. And so Joan Chen says, my uncle thinks that you're a bear. He thought you were a bear. He thinks you still might be. And then Steven Seagal looks up, half alive, and says, tell your uncle I'm not a bear. I'm a mouse hiding from hawks in the house of the Raven. And I'm just like, kill me now.
What?
Just kill me now. That is, oh God. Like, if you like, oh.
Well, you know what? Because they have like an origin story, the Inuit people.
Yeah.
That the bear was put in place when like humanity was brought to the planet or created. That the bear was like the apex predator that kind of kept humans in check with all of the rest of nature. And so the idea was that, humans no longer feared the bear. So Steven Seagal was a representation of the bear.
Ray,
That's
I
deep,
in
Ray.
no way am making any judgments on or have any criticism for the creation myths and religion of the Inuit people. But when Steven Seagal starts talking like he is an intricate part of that creation myth, that's when I have problems.
Would you say, as Albert put it, that it was unbearable?
It is unbearable. And now let us segue to the only real point of this movie, is the Steven Seagal vision quest.
Yes.
Hey, everybody, here we go. Strap yourselves in.
Oh, and this is starring Bart the Bear.
Starring Bart the Bear, the most famous member of this cast.
He's my favorite member of the cast besides Michael Caine. Go on.
Bart the Bear is famous. Now, so Steven Seagal and Joan Chen and the chief are huddled or are at a riverbank. And the chief is saying how he gives the creation myth of men springing from the earth, and they saw the bear and they feared the bear, and the balance of nature, and these new people do not fear the bear and they do not respect nature, and that's bad. And Steven Seagal is like, yeah, it's bad. And then the chief touches a feather to the head of Steven Seagal, who then disappears into his vision quest. And I'm going to do this as batshit crazy as I can. We then get to a faded screen that lets you know it's supernatural. And Steven Seagal is running, and he's running, and he's running. And there's a bear. It's Bart the Bear, famous actor from Legends of the Fall and The Bear. And in the 90s, any bear movie, anything that had a bear, including this movie, was Bart the Bear. And he jumps on Bart the Bear, and it's a big grizzly, and they're fighting, and he stabs it in the neck, and then he's in the river, and he falls in the river, and he's floundering, and then there's all this cutaways to these sexy Native Americans, and you see some Native American titties, and they're all having their dance, and they're having
and they're like making sort of like, not like, usually like there are Native American chants that are kind of like in rhythm to like what you would call like the heartbeat of Earth, like kind of very rhythmic.
Mm-hmm.
These are like Native American women making like weird like breathing noises, like
they were face like this close, and they were breathing at each other like hyperventilating.
It's like, are you giving birth, honey, or like what's happening? Like, and like there are some males in the scene that are naked, but it's mostly like hot Native American titties.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so then you cut to this scene of Steven Seagal. He's in a cave or something, and he looks in one direction, and there's this writhing, nubile, naked Native American Inuit woman. And then he looks in the other direction, and there is an old Native American Inuit woman who represents wisdom. And he looks over at the hot chick.
Albert's got right. What do I choose? The naked lady?
What will he choose? I'll tell you what he chooses. He chooses wisdom.
I don't know. Yes,
he chooses wisdom. And he goes and he talks to the old lady who imparts some mystical bullshit. And then he awakens and he's in the river. And everyone who can watch right now, I am going to emerge newly born from this river. And this is my impression of Steven Seagal. And in my screen, Jason's above me. So Jason, watch out, because I'm going to flop on top of you. Ready? Here we go. I just launched myself up Christ-like out of the water, a new man, a force for good, a force of nature. And that's what happens with Steven Seagal. And now He is the
We
white
should talk
savior of the
We
Inuit.
should talk about what him and the old lady talked about.
I don't remember. What did they talk about?
What has troubled you, old lady? I see the earth suffering. Something like that. And only you and your karate skills can save it. And then gave some super Native American powers. And
Clearly, the wisdom wasn't impressing you guys.
Oh, I forgot a scene. Like, so you've got. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. So before he goes on his vision quest, he decides to like get out of Dodge. So like he gets up and he goes and he tries to sneak away and steal a bunch of sled dogs.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, hey, dogs, come on, we're just gonna go for a little ride. And then the dogs just straight up attack him. It's the best part of the movie. You got all of these sled dogs are like ripping him apart. And
I know, they're like super loyal.
It goes back to your story about his ex-wife, where you're like spiritual. Fuck that bitch. Like here, he's like, come on, dogs, come with me. And then they're all done. And he's like, get these fucking dogs off of me. It's great. And there's like 4 shots of dogs digging into Steven Seagal's crotch. It's pretty great. So all right, we're gonna book through this now. We're booking through.
Yes, John is correct. It was the bully from Dumb and Dumber. The bully from Dumb and Dumber is the one who got the crap kicked out of him in the bar.
Yep, Mike Starr, famed character actor Mike Starr. Now Steven Seagal is the spirit warrior for the Native people, and he goes off to do some spirit warrior things. And then John C. McGinley, who has been instructed by Michael Kane, if you didn't find Steven Seagal's body, he's not dead. Do your effing job. They find the Inuit people and they harass them. They're like, where's Steven Seagal? Where's Steven Seagal? And then the chief is like, I don't know. And John C. McGinley shoots him. And then everyone's crying, ah! And then John C. McGinley's like, he attacked me. It was self-defense. And he flies away. And then Steven Seagal comes back and he's like, no. How could this be? No. And then they get ready for revenge. And I'm going to talk about, besides the dogs ripping apart Steven Seagal, the only, in my view, good line of the film is they uncover a snowmobile, and Steven Seagal looks to Joan Chen and says, you had this the whole time? And she said, yeah, for emergencies. Boom. I like that. I thought that was kind of funny. And then they go away on a snowmobile. So I'm setting this up. We're not going to go through every scene of this movie. I'm just setting this up. John C. McGinley and the female henchman sidekick of Michael Caine, they talk Michael
Caine's accent.
I can't do a Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. And it sounds like Michael Caine. Yeah, Michael Caine.
So they convince him to hire a bunch of mercenaries. You know, they convince him to get a bunch of mercenaries, and these mercenaries are again led by R. Lee Emery, a famed character actor. You may remember him as the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. And he plays in every film R. Lee Emery. And so R. Lee Emery his group of mercenaries are hired to take Steven Seagal down. And this is where I'm now going to make the Steven Seagal Neil Breen parallel. Mm-hmm. Because this kicks off a series of scenes of people describing how badass Steven Seagal is. Like at one point, Michael Caine turns to John C. McGinley and says, who is this guy? I'm going to tell you. Look deep into the bowels of your soul and think of your worst fucking nightmare. And that doesn't come close to this guy while he's pissed. And then later on, John C. McGinley, and I think I can quote this, says to one of his goons, this guy right here, this guy is the guy that the U.S. government calls when the Army or the Marines has a mission that can't fail, they call this guy to train the troops. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing nothing but bikini briefs and no toothbrush. And the next day he'd be at your pool party with $1 million smile and a pocket full of pesos. He's the type of guy who'd drink a gallon of gasoline just to piss on your campfire. What the hell? What the hell does that even mean? But here's the Neil Breen, because Neil Breen parallel, because this movie, just like Fateful Finding, is all about describing and showing how badass Steven Seagal is, how great he is, how scared everyone is of him. And I'm going to bring it back to what you said earlier about his ex-wife Kelly LeBrock. The only other thing I remember about Steven Seagal, the only other thing that I remember is from the movie Hard to Kill. And in Hard to Kill, Steven Seagal is in a coma in a nursing home or in a hospital, and his nurse is Kelly LeBrock. And Kelly LeBrock goes to his bedside and says, "You need to wake up, Steven. You need to wake up." And then she lifts up his gown and looks down at his penis and says, "Because I have a lot to look forward to." End scene.
Who do you think wrote that? Like, who do you think? You think somebody else other than fucking Steven Seagal
I don't
would ever
remember
write
that
that
scene.
shit?
It totally happened. It's all I remember.
Maybe I
from that
blocked
movie.
it out. I did fall asleep to this film a couple times. I had to rewatch it.
Like, you can't tell me that that's not the
imagine
exact
rewatching this
same
movie.
vein as Neil Breen. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as Neil Breen in Fateful Findings. It's the same thing.
You're not wrong. If you gave Neil Breen $50 million, you would probably get on Deadly Ground.
Yeah. And then we just get into a million more escalations. So Joan Chen and Steven Seagal, they go to his house, and then the mercenaries are there waiting for him. They get into a big gunfight. He kills everybody with extreme prejudice. Bang, bang, bang.
That's what he
Kills
does.
them all dead. And then he goes into his big armory, and he gets all of his guns. There's a little speech between Joan Chen and him. He's like, where Joan Chen's like, "Why don't we go to the authorities? Why don't we go to the press? That's what Uncle would have wanted." And then Steven Seagal basically insults everything that has happened in his life. He's like, "I love your father. I love our people. But mystical mumbo jumbo isn't going to help us now. We got to kill motherfuckers." Like, okay, then why did we have this vision quest? But whatever. So they get a bunch of guns, and then they go on a warpath. They set up traps. They're killing mercenaries in the woods, and they're making their way to Aegis 1 to shut it down, to blow it up so that the Inuit people can have their land and oil rights.
They're pronounced Eskimos, Ian.
John.
Eskimos.
John,
No, it's Inuit.
The film
Did you
isn't
even
gonna
watch
make
this
me
movie?
racist.
Eskimo.
Yeah, but they're really they prefer
In this
to call
movie, they're
Inuit.
well. I think Steven Seagal knows what they're called. Excuse me, right? But he's Steven Seagal.
Okay.
Could you imagine like him on the set and be like, "Oh, actually, Mr. Seagal, we are actually Indigo." Well, I say you're fucking Eskimos.
John, not only was that a good impression, you know that happened.
You know that exactly right. I knew that happened.
So, guys, let's get to the end of this. So now it's just more fighting. Steven Seagal and Joan Chen, they break into Aegis 1. They're killing a bunch of people. And here's a weird scene, and I don't know why I'm nitpicking it, because I'm not going to go through every fight sequence in this film. It doesn't deserve it. But at one point, he's outside of like a control room, and there's a 2-liter of Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
And Steven Seagal, he unscrews the lid, he pours it out, and duct tapes it to his pistol as a silencer. And I'm just saying that just the scene before, he was in his military level arsenal, like enough guns to take down an army, but he forgot the silencer, so he needs to use the 2-liter of pop.
And then another thing about that is when he shot the guy through glass, which is going to make noise when it shatters.
Yeah. Why do I care about this? I don't know, but I do. So
Yeah, that was such a weird scene. Like, what was that product placement for Coca-Cola, or what's going on?
I've no idea. But
I wonder
anyway,
if we have to see if there's an episode of MythBusters if Coca-Cola bottle actually works as a gun silencer.
Or maybe we could do that on the show.
None of us have the skills to do that, Ray. Like, to do that, we would need to get a gun and a 2-liter, and I'm not advocating.
No
for
one
that.
on the show has a gun. I mean, I don't have a gun, but
yeah, Ray, you're totally outing all of us.
You are a gun, Ray. You're a pistol.
Oh,
they call me Ray Gun.
all of you who are looking at her Bumble account right now, Ray Gun Ray, that's her handle. So,
I hate you.
Anyway, moving on. So Steven Seagal kills a bunch of people. They start blowing up a bunch of stuff. And seriously, they cause another 6 huge explosions. And back at control, Michael Kane is saying, well, yes, he just blew up 6 parts of it, but we're still online. How are they still online? He blew up 6 city blocks, but they're like, until he gets to the rig, we're fine. Now, we then get to this very weird moment, which I actually like, which stars a very young Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
Where
That
Billy
was funny.
Bob Thornton he's talking to another goon in a very darkly lit sequence where he's like, should I have the stock in or out? Because if I have the stock out, I kind of feel like a pussy. But if I have the stock in, I don't get that cool feel of the recoil when I shoot a guy. I don't know. It's this totally weird meta moment with the henchman that I actually thought was kind of funny. Anyone else like?
Yeah, that caught my attention too. He said something like, when I have it on, I feel more secure about it. I want to feel like a man when I'm shooting, or something like that.
It was kind of funny. And so that there's more action. Steven Seagal kills about 40,000 more people. And then you cut back to Billy Bob Thornton, who goes, see, that guy's good. That guy, I told you, that motherfucker, he's good. Oh, Junk, he's coming our way. And then I missed it. Does Steven Seagal kill them? Does Billy Bob Thornton get a death scene in this film? Or is he just doing side commentary like a Greek chorus? I don't remember.
I don't remember that scene.
It was there.
I might have been dozing off at that point.
Yeah. So then Joan Chen and
everybody else.
and Steven Seagal, they intercept a fleeing John C. McGinley and I'm sorry, I've been really pejorative here so far. I've been referring to her just as the female sidekick of Michael Caine, and that's not true. Her character's name is Lyles, and she's played by Sherry Shattuck. So anyway, John C. McGinley and Sherry Shattuck, they're getting out of Dodge. They're in a helicopter. They're flying away, and so Steven Seagal takes his giant gun and he shoots the helicopter to pieces. John C. McGinley gets out, and then does anyone remember how does Steven Seagal kill John C. McGinley?
Chinese Starr.
He does.
No,
not.
I don't know. I'm just joking.
I don't even remember.
I remember McGinley was begging for his life and saying, "I have secrets I can sell you or give you, or something. You need me to get to him."
Yeah. Oh, by the way, E.B. Savage right there just said there are far too many diatribes on manhood for this movie. What is a tribute to male ego? There's so many diatribes on male ego, on manhood. They talk about balls a whole lot in this movie. They mention testicles just constantly in the film. So he kills John C. McGinley in, I have to imagine, a gruesome way, but I don't even remember what it was. And I'm gonna say they missed a line, because earlier in the film, when the helicopter blades, that's right. Steven Seagal shoves his face into the helicopter blades.
Yes.
Very classily, in a classy way. And so earlier in the film, when John C. McGinley killed the Inuit chief, Joan Chen said to him, "I will watch you die." So where was the line where she says, "I told you I would watch you die"? That's Chekhov's gun right there. You can't set that up and not have her complete the line. But whatever. Okay, that happens. And then Lyles played by Shattuck, she is driving away in like an SUV and she crashes and gasoline spills everywhere. The gasoline gets caught on fire and explodes. And I watched this movie with my wife today. It's the first movie of our series she watched. And the thing she noted, and this was really astute, was that they couldn't have Steven Seagal kill her. They couldn't have him kill a woman. But she had to die because she was evil. So she dies by her own hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was astute. So they get into an elevator. The elevator's
No,
going to
wait. Before you go on, you watched this movie with your wife?
I did.
Yeah. Is she like in the yellow pages looking for a divorce lawyer right now? Or
Possibly.
It's like, possibly, yeah.
This is a dangerous podcast, after all.
Right.
And I think any court in the land would side with her.
You were just like, hey, you want to watch the Steven Seagal movie with me?
It took major coaxing.
That's brave. That's brave, right?
So anyway, guys, we're almost done here. We're almost out of here. So then he gets up there and they get accosted by R. Lee Emery, who's got a shotgun. And he's got it trained on Steven Seagal. He could totally kill him right now. And he's talked nonstop about how he needs to kill this man. And one of the things I like about R. Lee Emery in this film is he doesn't underestimate Steven Seagal or the persona of Steven Seagal. He's like, this guy's the most badass motherfucker in the world. If we can kill him, it's a miracle. And he's got the shotgun on it. And he says to him, if you make any moves, I will kill you. And so Steven Seagal makes a move. And he snatches the shotgun, flips it around, and blows R. Lee Emery's insides out. He could have just killed Steven Seagal right there. There we go. And so then they find Michael Kane.
Well, it's because in these kinds of schlocky action movies, bad guys talk too much.
It's true. It's true. So they find Michael Kane, and he's vainly trying to save the rig. Like he's spinning wheels and he's doing stuff. And then they get into this big argument. And then I don't even remember. They talk some smack. I don't remember the smack. It was completely unmemorable. And then Michael Caine is saying, whatever, I'm out of here. And he's leaving. He says, you're a man of honor. You're not going to shoot me in the back. And then, so then Steven Seagal grabs some cable wire, fashions a lasso, lassos Michael Caine's feet, pulls him over, hangs him over the railing, like kind of that scene in Batman with the goon. And he's hanging him there. And I think Joan Chen, who was the pacifist early in the movie, says, am I making them? She's like, kill him for my uncle. I'm like, whoa, shit. Joan Chen.
Yeah. She definitely
something like that. Yeah. And so Steven Seagal then shoots the cable and Michael Caine falls into a pit of oil, dying by the thing he loved most. Ironic, would you not say?
Shakespearean, man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
really, then they blow up the oil rig. They blow up our third oil rig of the film.
Right. Another one. Not.
And then we cut to the Alaskan state legislature, where Steven Seagal and a bunch of Inuits make a PowerPoint presentation on the importance of environmentalism. And I've got to tell you right now, no points in this, no issues and topics and statements in this PowerPoint presentation.
This movie's not where it belonged.
Yeah, like, do I disagree? None of them. They were all true facts. And I never hated the environment more than right then. Like, it totally didn't do its job. It's so obnoxious. It is the most heavy-handed, obnoxious thing. Here's a fact that I learned. In the original film, it was 11 minutes long. And test audiences walked out. And so they cut it down. And it is still interminable. It is so obnoxious.
Yeah.
And it ends with Steven Seagal saying, so have electric cars, like the Tesla that John's girlfriend is buying. See?
Came full circle right there.
So then, sorry, Cheryl. We, due to some issues, we had to record today. Sorry, we've missed you. You're getting right here at the tail end. And so then you just have footage of screeching owls and bears and Steven Seagal making out with Joan Chen in tents and everything, and that ends our film.
There's like one little like Easter egg in the credits where like they're out on a canoe out on the water.
Is that what it
I
is?
think that would have been a better way to end the film. Like show the majesty of the Alaskan, wilderness. Like that would have been okay. Like the whole like environmental showcase. Yeah, it is a little obnoxious at the end there.
Okay, Ray, a little obnoxious.
Well, I mean, that was my favorite part of the film, besides Michael Kane.
Yeah.
But, I could just watch hours and hours of a documentary on the environment. So.
It's true. So everybody.
But it's not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
But here's the thing. I'm not going to hear that from Steven Seagal. I'm really not going to.
Yeah, no, it's not good coming from Steven Seagal. He's no David Attenborough,
That is an understatement of the century.
Yeah,
right there.
it's like he's just such an awful person in real life. Him doing like, oh, I'm gonna make a movie where I'm saving the environment. And it's not. He doesn't give a fuck about the. He gives a fuck about how him in his movie career and how he comes off on the movie. And he looks so fucking fantastic. And
exactly, it's kind of like what Albert was saying, like a bizarro Seagal. Like basically that scene where like Michael Caine's like caressing the caribou, saying the oil company cares about the wilderness. That's like literally like Steven Seagal's like personality. It's like, I love the environment. Oh God, my hands stink as soon as the camera's like
I remember in Roar, Gennarso commented something about it was like self-aggrandizing that he tried to be the savior of the cats or whatever. I wonder if that theme is carried over here to Steven Seagal trying to be the great white savior of the Inuits and the environment.
Oh, completely is.
Yeah. And I can make a parallel between this, another parallel between this and Fatal Findings with Neil Breen, where here's a naked lady and he's shunning her, and I'm going to choose the old woman for the wisdom. Where remember that pool scene with Fatal Findings, which turned into a bubble bath scene for no reason.
Yeah. Also remember, yes, in the Vision Quest, Steven Seagal will choose the old woman, but he also gets to bang Joan Chen. Like he wants boobies too. I'll take.
That's the difference between him and Neil Breen. Neil Breen is content with these hot young 19-year-old naked chicks just wanting him. He can just leave it there. Where Steven Seagal is be like, I'll get you later.
Yeah. So here we are. We're on to. I'm interested to hear this. So we're on to the Ray segment. Ray, was On Deadly Ground sexist?
Do we even have to ask this? Imagine if it wasn't. Imagine if she says a Steven Seagal film. No, this is.
We've also entered the segment of John. We've also entered the segment of the film where Ray is asked to weigh in on whether a movie is sexist, and then a bunch of men talk over her.
Yep. Pretty typical.
Anyways, what I was saying. No, I'm just
I hate you, Charlie.
I'm sorry.
Ray, was this film sexist?
It doesn't pass the Bechdel test, but there are some strong women in this film. Lyles is like a strong, empowered attorney for our villain Michael Caine. And she's pretty powerful. She's definitely pulling the strings a bit in this film. She's always very, she has a lot of good lines. She has better lines than the very cute Joan Chen, who's kind of just a translator between the chief, who is either her uncle or father, and Steven Seagal. She doesn't have too many of her own lines. Except, like you said, kind of expressing that she would prefer a more pacifist, choice of lobbying, and actually going the environmental route. And then, Steven Seagal goes on to have a whole soapbox, well, it's worked so well for you so far, this pacifist routine. Yeah, why don't we, we're just going to blow this shit up. like that's obviously the best solution. Like he's not going to have any impunity for this. He's going to be able to like host seminars on the environment after this and like face no repercussions. I guess that's how the world works.
Yeah.
See,
We
this
can
is
all be
why. Wait,
terrorists and face no consequences for our actions. I mean,
This
why
is
am I
why-
here and not like on Sea Shepherd right now?
This is why Ray is very good at I mean, it would be too easy for anybody to be like, no, of course, fucking Steven Seagal's movie is not does not pass the mental test. She finds some positive. Well, this is a strong character. She dives in and she explains it. But for everybody keeping score at home, the only ones that are not sexist that we watch so far is the very pro-female, female powerful powerhouse movie of Super Mario Brothers
My choice.
and Cherry 2000.
Also my choice.
Yeah,
Also,
I'm starting to
Cheryl?
see a theme here.
Yeah. Cheryl, you're asking questions about the movie Uncle, Father, Father, Uncle. Like, Cheryl, I am sorry. I would love for us to go back and talk about this film a second time right now. Oh, but we're not going to.
But it would kill our souls, right?
So you'll have to wait
I'll
for
put
the
a link
recap.
if you want to watch this movie for free and have it destroy your computer, because that's tends to what happens.
Unless you download the Brave browser, which
Brave browser.
Monitor
Brave
me
browser is
on
the
you.
best. But anyways,
with
it's
the pop-up
for you
boxes.
don't want to watch this movie. Let us watch these horrible abominations for you. And
So
then,
now with this, I come to the ending of our segment. Last thoughts on Deadly Ground. Jason, what do you take away?
I just like the explosions.
Okay. They did look good, everybody, right? Can we all agree on that? They were some pretty good explosions. $50 million can buy you some good explosions. Ray, what's your final thoughts?
I do love seeing like the nature. It's obnoxious that like every time a Native American comes on the screen that there's like a Cooper hawk screeching or whatever, or eagle, but I do love all the the nature shots. Like it is a really beautifully filmed piece. I like Michael Caine, his bolo ties, his like snarky little attitude. I'm like super into Michael Caine in this film. And I like the attempt to like protect the Native American people and the environment. I like the idea behind it. I just wish it wasn't Steven Seagal.
John, your final thoughts?
a lot can be said about Steven Seagal and his films. This is, this is absolutely ridiculous. It is in the theme of like, it's just that the whole movie is just, there's one person, running the whole thing. They're directing it. They're probably writing it. And that's Steven Seagal here. And you're just kind of watching an exercise in vanity, and you just have to kind of go on for the ride. It was absolutely.
But it had explosions.
Yeah, and not just explosions, Jason, but explosions that Steven Seagal doesn't react to. He's bored of it. Like those, they're walking, there's an explosion, they just walk. That's a reoccurring theme in a lot of movies with men. There's this huge explosion and they just, it's boring to them and to him. He's got his back to it and big explosion and he's just yawning. Who has time for this boring explosion?
Which brings me to my final thoughts. And, I'm the one who brought this movie, and I have less of a reaction to this movie than anything we've ever had. I come away from it feeling much the way I did when I was a young boy who watched it on VHS, which was I watched it and I immediately forgot it existed. It made so little impact on me. It is an obnoxious film. It is a disgusting film, and it is an eminently forgettable film. And with that, we're going to set up for next week. This was my week, and I'm looking up above me on the Brady Bunch Square to Jason. Jason, this is your week.
All right, we have not really gotten into a horror movie yet, unless you consider Roar.
I would completely consider Roar a horror film.
That was a comedy. What are you talking about?
But this one is going to be the last horror movie, is what it's called.
The last horror movie.
Well, what if
That's
somebody wants
fair.
to do a horror movie after this? What's the name of the movie?
You'll have to take it up with the last horror movie. That's the name of it.
Oh, that's the name of it.
The movie. The movie is named The Last Horror Movie. Okay.
Is this from? Was this like a Cinemax movie from the '90s? Because if it is, I'm gonna lose my shit.
I will love
Dude,
you forever.
like,
John.
I'm not even
2003,
kidding.
okay.
From the 90s.
It is actually a Cinemax movie from the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
like YouTube,
Back to our
when you
roots.
watch it on YouTube, it has the Cinemax logo up in the corner the whole time.
We've never watched a Cinemax movie. We've only watched Showtime movies at this point. Jason, I love you. I'm so excited for this movie. So everybody,
John's over there frozen, like, oh no.
Like, why are we doing this? All right, I've already found the full movie online, and I'm putting the link for it. I can't watch another. I just can't watch another like movie that was just shit out onto Showtime or Cinemax or whatever.
John,
That was just thrown together.
There's and you're watching
The last horror movie. So this is no wait. This is so the wait. Oh, okay. No, what I gave a link to is not the one you're talking about.
Well, wait. So there's a 2003 version and there's a 1982 version.
It's 2003.
It's the
2003 version. Okay. The last horror movie. So it wasn't in the 90s then, I'm imagining.
So it wasn't even the last version of the last
honestly,
horror
unless
though,
there's a
early
time
2000s
travel
were the 90s.
machine involved.
The early 2000s.
I think there was an older movie called The Last Horror Film. I don't know if it's related.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're right. You're right. Sorry.
All right. So everybody knows, all of our legion of 750,000 listeners and viewers, go out, watch the last horror movie. The best Cinemax can offer.
So
the
can
link is in the chat.
So again, I want to say that Jules was not able to join us here, but somehow he was available to like this stream.
Okay.
He gave a thumbs up to it.
Okay. I want to note right now, John, I'm going to say this right now. Cheryl just said she missed this week's Lou Diamond Phillip facts. And Cheryl, we didn't do any because John...
I put an end to it, right.
Because John is dead inside and he hates joy.
I can't do it.
So
we had
Cheryl,
to put an end to it.
You know what I'm going to do, Cheryl? I'm going to write you specifically with some Lou Diamond Phillips facts. I'm going to do that for you.
Do that.
So with that, everybody, thank you for watching. Next week is The Last Horror Movie. I'm your host, Ian Alley Seals. I'm here with Jason. He just nodded, everybody, for those who are listening.
Yes.
I'm here with Electric Ray.
Woohoo!
Right.
And I'm here.
Find her on dating sites.
And with the founder of this podcast, John Carrier, everybody. There we go. All right, everybody.
Right on. With the puppies.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Ray isn't the only one here with Ray isn't the only one with puppies. I got puppies too.
What is wrong with you?
Okay, we're done. We're done. All
right.
We're done. Turn it off. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right, good night.